Sometimes, the most beautiful love stories are the ones we never see on camera. Stories that grow quietly, far away from the noise of fame. And for many fans, the biggest mystery has always been this: who captured the heart of the man who captured? Ours on Heartland? Today, we uncover the tender, private, and deeply inspiring story of Graham Wardle, and the woman fans believe brought a new kind of light into his life, Paula. Graham Wardle became a household name because of his role as Ty Borden in Heartland. For over a decade, he played the calm, caring, and deeply loyal character fans fell in love with. But away from the ranch, away from the bright lights and cameras, Graham was always much more than the character he played. He was a man searching for meaning, chasing growth, and learning to understand himself in a world that demanded his attention. Even as his fame grew, Graham stayed grounded. He avoided the loud spotlight that followed him, rarely shared anything about his personal life. While many celebrities lived online, sharing every moment with the world, Graham chose silence. And silence made fans even more curious. They wondered what kind of person he trusted, what kind of woman he admired, and who he allowed into the private corners of his life. What made Graham different was his heart. People who worked with him described him as thoughtful, gentle, and deeply focused on living with purpose. He was the type of person who looked for meaning in small things: a quiet walk, a long conversation, a moment of stillness. And because he lived this way, love for him was not something he chased in public. It was something sacred, something personal, something he protected with both hands. Behind his smile was a man who felt things deeply, someone who believed in emotional connection more than public attention, someone who knew that true love did not need the world's approval to be real. And as he grew older, moving through seasons of success and seasons of change, Graham's heart began to lean toward the kind of love that brought peace, not noise. The kind of love that felt natural, steady, and brave. The kind of love that fans would one day whisper about. When the name Paula began to appear alongside his, this is where their story begins. Not with fame, not with cameras, but with a man quietly searching for something real. Paula did not arrive in Graham's life with noise or fanfare. There was no bright headline, no flashing cameras, no dramatic announcement. Her presence entered more like a quiet breeze, gentle, steady, and almost unnoticed at first. But sometimes the softest things change us the most. She was not from the world of fame. She was not seeking attention, nor did she want to be part of the public conversation that followed Graham everywhere he went. Instead, she lived a life rooted in calmness. Friends described her as warm, thoughtful, and deeply connected to her inner world. She had a way of listening that made people feel seen, and a way of speaking that felt honest and comforting. This alone set her apart. When their paths crossed, it was not because of glamour or celebrity circles. It was through something quieter: shared values, shared curiosity, and a shared desire to grow as human beings. Graham had always been drawn to meaning, to soul-searching, to conversations that reached beyond the surface. And Paula, she was someone who naturally lived in that deeper space. Their first connection was not dramatic. It was simple. A conversation that went on longer than expected. A moment of understanding that felt strangely familiar. A feeling that this person saw the world in a way he recognized. It wasn't the kind of spark that explodes like fireworks. It was the kind that glows. It's the kind that warms slowly but stays for a long time. Graham, who had spent years protecting his heart from the eyes of the public, found himself relaxing. Around her, he didn't have to pretend, didn't have to perform, didn't have to hide the softer parts of himself. Paula brought a sense of peace, the kind that makes you breathe a little deeper without realizing it. People close to them noticed this shift. Graham seemed more centered, more reflective, more open to new chapters. Paula's presence wasn't loud, but it was powerful. She had a way of encouraging growth without forcing it. A way of standing beside him, not in front or behind. And for someone like Graham, who valued freedom and authenticity, that balance mattered. Their connection grew not through big gestures, but through the small, quiet things. Shared talks, shared interests, shared silence. And as time went on, Graham began to understand something important. Sometimes, the love that changes your life doesn't crash in. It gently walks in and stays. This was the beginning of the beautiful private bond that fans would later sense but never fully see. A love built not for the world, but for the two hearts who found comfort in each other. What connected Graham and Paula was not a single moment, but a slow discovery, like two people walking separate paths who begin to notice their footsteps falling in the same rhythm. The bond didn't need noise or grand gestures. It grew through something far more rare: genuine understanding. Graham had spent years surrounded by attention, fans, interviews, cameras, expectations. The world constantly wanted something from him, but Paula was different. She offered something he didn't realize he had been missing: space. Space to breathe, to think, to simply be. She never approached him as the actor. She approached him as a human being, one with questions, dreams, fears, and hopes, just like anyone else. It was this calm acceptance that first pulled him toward her. Paula had a way of noticing the details other people overlooked. She noticed when he grew quiet, when he grew thoughtful, when he needed a moment away from the noise. She didn't fill the silence, she honored it. And Graham, who had spent so long giving pieces of himself to the world, found it strangely comforting that she didn't ask for anything in return. Their conversations became a gentle meeting place. They talked about simple things: books, nature, faith, creativity. But slowly, these conversations opened the door to deeper topics: personal growth, inner struggles, and the search for meaning. It wasn't dramatic or intense, it was honest. And honesty has a way of building trust without anyone realizing it. Sometimes they would sit quietly, saying nothing, just sharing the same space. And even in silence, something was happening. A connection forming, not through words, but through presence. Graham felt seen without being exposed. Paula felt understood without having to explain herself. What made their spark unique was its softness. It wasn't the kind of love that sweeps people off their feet instantly. It was the kind that grows roots. It's the kind that builds a foundation before anyone realizes a home is being built on it. The kind that makes a person feel safer, lighter, and more themselves. For Graham, who had been carrying the weight of fame for so long, Paula became a reminder of everything that mattered beyond the screen. And for Paula, Graham became someone who valued the same quiet truth she lived by. Their connection wasn't loud enough for the world to see, but it was strong enough for their hearts to feel. What made Graham and Paula's connection extraordinary was not something big or dramatic. It was the small, almost invisible moments, the ones that slipped between busy days and long conversations. Their relationship grew in the spaces most people overlook: the pause before a reply, the smile. That comes without thinking, comfortable silence that doesn't need to be filled. Graham had always lived with the pressure of being seen. Cameras waited for him, scripts guided his days, and millions of viewers imagined they knew his heart through the characters he played. But with Paula, the world faded into the background. She didn't see him as a star, or an icon, or the beloved Ty Borden. She saw the man behind all of that, the man who loved nature, who carried deep thoughts, who questioned himself, who tried every day to grow into someone better. In return, Paula found something in Graham that she didn't expect. Someone who truly listened. Not the polite listening people practice when they wait for their turn to speak, but the rare kind, the listening that makes you feel your words have a place to land. Graham cared about what she thought, what she dreamed of, what she feared, and who she wanted to become. Their connection was built slowly, like two hands reaching toward each other without rushing. They walked alongside rivers and talked about life. They spent evenings watching the sky change colors, saying little but feeling much. They shared stories from their past, the painful ones and the beautiful ones, and somehow each story brought them a little closer. The outside world was loud, but their world together was soft. And that softness became their strength. It wasn't a love that demanded attention. It wasn't a love that tried to impress anyone. It was a love that grew naturally, like a plant leaning towards sunlight because it knows where it belongs. Admired Graham's courage, not the courage he showed on screen, but the quiet courage it took to be vulnerable, to question himself, to start new chapters instead of staying in old ones out of comfort. And Graham admired Paula's calm strength, the way she stayed true to her values, even when life grew uncertain, the way she held space for others, the way she carried light without trying to shine. Their bond wasn't loud or public, but it was real in the way the best things in life are real: steady, gentle, grounding. A connection made not of fireworks, but of embers, warm, lasting, and alive. It was in these unnoticed moments that their relationship found its true shape. Quiet love story that didn't. Every love story, even the gentle ones, meets moments of pressure. And for Graham and Paula, those challenges did not arrive in dramatic waves. They arrived in small, quiet tests that slowly revealed the strength of their bond. Graham lived in a world where people often felt entitled to every detail of his life. Fans wanted updates, interviews asked personal questions, and cameras, whether real or imagined, seemed to follow him everywhere. It wasn't fame he feared. It was losing himself in it. And sometimes he wondered if anyone could truly understand what it felt like to carry that kind of attention. Paula did. But understanding it didn't always make it easy. There were days when the outside world pressed too close, when rumors swirled online, when fans searched for answers that weren't theirs to have, when Graham felt torn between protecting his privacy and sharing his truth. Paula watched him struggle with the weight of being admired by millions while trying to stay grounded as just one man. It wasn't jealousy that troubled her, it was the fear of being swallowed by a world she never asked to be part of. Still, she stood beside him, not with demands, not with worry, but with a deep and steady kind of patience. She knew that love isn't only about sharing the beautiful moments. It's also about holding someone together when the world tries to pull them apart. Graham faced another challenge to his own desire to evolve. As he explored new paths, new questions, new creative spaces, he often stepped into uncertainty. Leaving behind familiar chapters takes courage, but it also takes faith. Paula became a quiet reminder that growth is not something to fear. It encouraged him to trust his inner voice, even when the world expected him to stay the same. Yet even with their strong bond, there were moments of doubt. Nights when Graham wondered if his journey would create distance between them. Days when Paula questioned whether she was ready to be part of a life that wasn't always simple, always peaceful, always contained. But in every test, they returned to the same truth. Their love wasn't built on perfection, it was built on presence, on choosing each other again and again, even when things felt complicated or uncertain. These challenges didn't break them. Instead, they deepened their connection. They learned to communicate with honesty, to give each other space without creating distance, to hold on without holding too tightly. Their quiet love became stronger, not because life was easy, but because they faced the difficult parts with softness, patience, and respect. In the end, it wasn't the challenges that defined their relationship. It was how they moved through them together, hand in hand, choosing love, even when the world outside tried to test it. There are some relationships that do more than bring two people together. They change them from the inside out. And for Graham and Paula, their love did not move loudly. It reshaped them quietly, like water carving its path through stone. Gentle but unstoppable. For Graham, Paula became a mirror that reflected parts of himself he had forgotten. She reminded him of the boy who once dreamed before anyone knew his name, the young man who found peace in nature long before he found fame on a screen. Paula's presence brought him back to the simple truths, the power of stillness, the beauty of honesty, the strength found in vulnerability. He began to look at his life differently, not through the lens of fame, but through the lens of purpose. He questioned what truly mattered. He wondered what kind of stories he wanted to tell, not just on camera, but in his real life. Paula didn't push him. She didn't guide him. She simply stood beside him, and sometimes that kind of support is enough to change a person's entire direction. For Paula, Graham unlocked a different kind of transformation. She had always been quiet, thoughtful, careful with her heart, but being with him encouraged her to step into her own voice. he made. Her belief that gentle souls could be strong, that soft hearts could still shape the world. He saw beauty in her calmness, strength in her silence, and creativity in the way she understood life. And so she began to grow not out of who she was, but deeper into who she had always been. Dreams she had set aside began to rise again. Ideas she never spoke aloud found space to breathe. Graham's belief in her became a kind of courage she carried. Without even realizing it, their love was not about changing each other. It was about unlocking the parts of themselves they had hidden away. Together, they learned that transformation doesn't need grand moments. Sometimes it happens during a walk at sunset. Sometimes it's a shared conversation that stretches into the night. Sometimes it's the simple feeling of being truly seen. What made their love unique was how naturally it encouraged growth. Not forced, not rushed, just a people unfolding into better versions of themselves. Side by side, the world often imagines love as loud and dramatic, but theirs was something else entirely. It was a quiet guide, a gentle push, safe place. To land, it was proof that the right person doesn't complete youth. They help you see the parts of yourself that were waiting to shine. And in this soft, steady transformation, Graham and Paula found something deeper than romance. They found a shared journey, a path that made sense only because they were walking it together. In the end, what made Graham and Paula's story so captivating wasn't how public it was how deeply private it remained. The world never watched their first moments together. No cameras captured their quiet talks, their shared laughter, their challenges, or the way their hearts slowly learned to trust each other. And maybe that was the secret to the beauty of it all. Their love grew away from the noise. For fans, it was always a mystery, this quiet presence in Graham's life that he never defined for the world. People sensed something different in him, a softer glow, a deeper calm, a shift in the way he carried himself. But he never pointed to it. He never explained it. Some stories are too delicate to hand over to strangers, and this was one of them. Paula didn't seek attention, and Graham didn't offer their story to the spotlight. Instead, they nurtured it in the silence, choosing to protect what mattered instead of performing it. In a world where everything is shared, posted, and analyzed, their choice to keep their love private made it feel even more rare. It became something the world could only guess at, felt, but never fully known. What they built together was not meant for headlines. It was meant for the two souls who found comfort and purpose in one another. Their love didn't need applause. It didn't need approval. It didn't even need to be understood by anyone else. It simply existed, quiet, steady, meaningful. And that is perhaps the most powerful love of all, the kind that grows without needing to be seen, the kind that becomes a source of strength instead of a story for entertainment, the kind that encourages two people to become better versions of themselves, not because the world is watching, but because the heart desires it. In the end, Graham and Paula's romance became more than just a relationship, became a reminder that real love is not always loud, it's not always dramatic. It doesn't always need an audience. Sometimes the most beautiful love stories are the ones whispered in the quiet, kept safe between the people who live them. The world may never know every detail of Graham and Paula's journey, but they don't have to. What matters is that their hearts knew. And in the quiet spaces of their lives, that was more than enough. As their story continues, still private, still gentle, still true, it leaves behind a message for everyone who watches from afar. Love doesn't need the spotlight to shine. Sometimes the brightest stories are the ones lived in the dark, by two souls who choose each other again and again.